defending undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world, George St Pierre.
He is undisputed as the greatest welterweight of all time, and in almost every single conversation of who has GOAT status, George St Pierre is usually in the top 3, usually in the top 2. So today in this video, I am going to be going over who the GOAT is in every single division, who the king of every single division is, who is most likely to dethrone them, and at the very end, I'm going to tell you who I think the greatest of all time is and who could potentially dethrone them as well. Buckle up, here we go. At heavyweight, we have Stipe Miocic. He is considered the GOAT of that division, winning the heavyweight title back in 2016. He defended it a few times, lost it to DC, won it back, defended it against DC, and then lost it eventually to Francis Ngannou. Now, everybody thinks that Stipe Miocic, this would probably, well, not everybody, but a lot of people think this would probably be the easiest guy to replace as far as GOAT status goes in the division. And right now, everybody's saying that guy is Tom Aspinall. Now, it depends a little bit on how long Jon Jones sticks around. Jon Jones has said he's probably going to fight Stipe, maybe one more guy, and then retire. If Jon Jones sticks around and defends the belt a few more times, he could pass Stipe Miocic as the greatest heavyweight of all time. But that seems unlikely given the fact that he's probably, that he has said he's going to be vacating the titles. Well, no, he didn't say vacating, but what he said was he's probably going to fight Stipe, maybe one more guy, and then call it a day, call it a career. That's the end of that story. That's the end of that chapter. Now, I think Tom Aspinall has a ton of potential to beat Miocic's record. I think he can defend his belt in a lot of ways. First of all, he's got the interim title right now. I think that if Jones vacates the title, he can win. I think if he fought Jon Jones, he'd have a very good chance of winning that. Rumor has it he is going to be facing Curtis Blaydes to defend his interim title. If he wins there, which I think he has a good chance of knocking out Curtis Blaydes, then that'll be, I don't know, will that count as a title defense? And if he becomes the undisputed champion, he's already beaten Sergey Pavlovich, and there aren't many other people in the heavyweight division that I think are a huge threat to Aspinall's skill set. So he could very well be the next heavyweight GOAT that we see, and he could dethrone Stipe Miocic. At light heavyweight, we've got Jon Bones Jones. And the thing about Jon Jones is there's an asterisk beside his reign. Like, he's beaten everybody at light heavyweight, right? But there are a few defenses that he has that were very close. Dominic Reyes being one of them. Thiago Santos being another. Is it Thiago Santos? I think it was Thiago Santos being another. And the fact that he got caught with PEDs. And because of all these things, a lot of people think that that should disqualify you from GOAT status altogether. Now, I am just going off by what the internet says, what the MMA online community says, and they say that it is Jon Jones. And right now, I really don't see anybody. I don't see anybody at light heavyweight who can give him a run for his money. We've got Poatan, Alex Pereira, who's pretty darn entertaining, and I think he can beat almost anybody in the light heavyweight division as of right now, with the exception of Ankalaev. We'll see how that fight goes, but even there, I think he has a really good chance. And, he's 36, right? He would have to defend the belt a bunch more times and do it quickly if he's going to even consider contending with Jon Jones for the status of light heavyweight GOAT. Other than that, I don't see anybody in the rankings right now that has a shot at dethroning Jon Jones. At middleweight, we've got Anderson Silva. And once again, this comes with a little bit of an asterisk because there is that little blip on his record with PEDs. And towards the end of his career, unfortunately, he lost a bunch of times, right? Which kind of takes away from that aura. It takes away from that GOAT status in accordance with a lot of people. But consensus online, almost everybody says Anderson Silva is the middleweight GOAT. And Izzy right now is probably the runner-up, but I don't think he's going to be able to dethrone Anderson Silva. He's even said himself he's probably only got a few more fights left in him. He's probably going to fight this summer at light heavyweight. He's probably going to fight this summer at middleweight. He's probably going to try to reclaim his belt. And if he doesn't do that, then there's no chance. If he does, maybe he goes on another title run. If he defends a few more times, maybe. But there are some guys coming up in that division who will take his lunch, right? You've got Khamzat Chimaev. If he gets through Robert Whittaker, he's absolutely getting a title shot. I definitely don't think Izzy can contend with his wrestling. Chimaev could be that guy. It's just we've seen a few close fights from him lately, so he does seem like he's beatable, right? And if he loses, or if he wins, if he gets the title, you've got some people coming up in the division who definitely have a shot at beating him. Bo Nickel has some crazy wrestling. He's been fighting a lot of cans lately, but he might be somebody to look out for. But I don't see too many people at middleweight who are going to dethrone Anderson Silva. I think the best chance is probably Khamzat Chimaev, but again, it really depends on how he does in his next fight and whether or not he wins the title relatively quickly. Now we go down to welterweight. And everybody knows the GOAT of welterweight is the great George St Pierre. And George St Pierre has so many bloody title defenses. He fought everybody. He didn't leave any questions answered. He lapped his division. He did so much for the sport. He was a star. And as a Canadian, he's the top guy for me. Right there. George. The runner-up is obviously Kamaru Usman. I think the only guy right now who could potentially dethrone George St Pierre, and this is a big if, it all depends on how his next few fights go, is Shavkat Rakhmonov. The guy is currently undefeated. Every single one of his fights he's finished. He hasn't faced the cream of the crop just yet, but he is certainly in the conversation for being next up for a title shot. And if he wins that title, then it's going to be a question of who does he defend it against, right? And how many times can he defend it? The guy's only like 28 years old, so he does have quite a bit of time. He can probably do quite a few title defenses. He may be able to go up and stop George, but he's got some challenges ahead of him. Jack Della Mandela, he is a dangerous guy in that division. You've got him. He's probably going to have to defend against people like maybe Bilal Muhammad. Maybe he's going to have to take the belt from Bilal Muhammad. Other than that, there aren't a ton of threats in that division, but at the lightweight division, there's Islam Makhachev, who has spoken about going up and fighting for the belt. And so if Shavkat Rakhmonov is the welterweight king, then he's going to have to face Islam Makhachev, and that's a tall order for no matter who you are. So I think the guy who has the best chance of dethroning George St Pierre right now is Shavkat Rakhmonov, but once again, it's a tough time to be a fighter, and these guys who have some great statistics, so it'll be hard to defeat them and bring them down. At lightweight, the GOAT is Khabib. I don't care what any of you guys say, what any of you haters say, the lightweight GOAT is Khabib, and the guy to potentially dethrone him is Islam Makhachev. The reality is Islam has a loss on his record, so nobody's ever going to deal with that 29-0, at least not at lightweight in the near future. But losses don't necessarily mean you're out of the conversation for GOAT status, right? Since that one loss, Islam has not lost again. He's beaten the cream of the crop of his division. It looks like he's going to beat Dustin Poirier. He beat Charles Oliveira, which everybody was like, oh, Charles Oliveira is the guy who could beat Khabib, right? And Islam Makhachev said that he loses to Khabib in the training room, right? So it's one of these things. He's defended against Alexander Volkanovski. With a few more title defenses, I think Islam Makhachev could take that crown. Featherweight division. The GOAT of that division is considered to be Jose Aldo. I don't personally agree with this. I think it's Volkanovski. I think Volkanovski faced tougher opponents. He beat Max Holloway 3 times. He beat Jose Aldo in his prime. Max Holloway did the same thing. So I personally think Volkanovski is the GOAT. But either way, I think that Jose Aldo is, by what majority opinions are online, is considered the GOAT of that division. And I think the only guy right now who might be able to dethrone him would be Max Holloway. And it's still relatively new, but Ilia Topuria. But Ilia Topuria's next fight right now is probably going to be against Max Holloway. And Max Holloway is a nightmare matchup for Topuria. So you never know. Another guy who might be on the radar is Movsar Evloev. He might be able to get the job done as well. The only problem with him is he is a boring fighter. And he's barely squeaked out some decisions in previous fights. So I don't know if he's going to get the shine that Jose Aldo did, or Volkanovski, or Max Holloway. And beating any of those guys, for Evloev to go and face them, it'll be a tough test. At bantamweight, everybody says that the GOAT is Dominick Cruz. I haven't looked into his career too much. It was a little bit before my time and before I really even got interested. But everybody says he's the GOAT. They say the runner-up is Aljamain Sterling. And right now, I think the guy who could potentially pass that torch would be Sugar Sean. He's quite good. He's got some precise striking. If he gets a couple more defenses, if he defends against Merab, maybe he defends against, like, if Omar Nurmagomedov comes up and he can defend against that, he would probably be the new bantamweight GOAT. But the question is, can he do it, right? We don't know. I think he has a good chance against Merab and a good chance against Omar if he can be really precise with his striking and make it next to impossible to get the fight to the ground. Because if the fight goes to the ground with either one of these guys, it's going to be tough. With Omar especially, it'll be almost impossible for him to get back up. So that's the question. I think Sugar Sean has the best chance right now. But after Sugar Sean, if Omar gets through Sandhagen and wins the title, I think he could beat Dominick Cruz for the bantamweight GOAT. At flyweight, it's Demetrius Johnson. Pantoja's got 2 title defenses, and if he can defend it a couple more times, I think he can become the GOAT of the flyweight division. But some other people in the conversation are Figueiredo, Henry Cejudo, Figgy, and I don't pay attention to it that much. I think DJ will be hard to dethrone. But I think that another guy who could potentially get it done is Muhammad Mokaev. He's got some crazy wrestling. He's only 23 years old. There have been a few situations where he has indeed looked beatable. But he's only going to get better. He's only like 23 years old. And I think if he gets a title shot in the next year or so and can defend it a few times, I think he could surpass Demetrius Johnson. Now for the women. Amanda Nunes. To me, this lady's untouchable. Amanda Nunes is the GOAT, and I don't see anybody in any of the women's divisions, no matter what, who could do what she's done. At least who isn't like a child right now. Maybe we'll see someone come up later on in the next few years, but I don't see anybody dethroning Amanda Nunes for a long, long time. Right now, the closest person who might be able to do something is Kayla Harrison, I think. But even then, she's only fought like Holly Holm. She's got some crazy grappling. You know, there's Juliana Pena. I think who holds the belt right now? Raquel Pennington. Yeah, there's just not a lot of women who can do what Amanda Nunes did. And if Amanda Nunes ever decided to come back, I think she'd be able to take the belt from just about anybody. At flyweight, obviously, Valentina Shevchenko, she held the belt forever. Now it belongs to Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso is probably the runner-up. Will she be able to dethrone Valentina? I don't know, because there's been a few times where a lot of time it's been very close, right? So it looks like they're going to do that rematch again. Maybe Valentina gets her belt back. Maybe she doesn't. But right now, again, I don't see there's many women who could surpass Valentina at this point. At strawweight, a lot of people are saying it's Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I don't know. Once again, don't really pay too much attention. But I think the woman to dethrone her is Weili. I think she's going to be able to do that. I think with a couple more title defenses. And once again, I don't see very many women at strawweight who can contend with Weili. And that's that. And who the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time in my book is George St Pierre, GSP. And I think the guy who can dethrone George St Pierre is Islam Makhachev. And I think it just depends on how long he sticks around, right? He's 32 right now. If he can get a few more title defenses at lightweight, maybe he defends against Poirier, defends against Sarukian, maybe one more guy, goes up to welterweight. If he wins the belt up there and defends that maybe a couple times, I think it's possible that he could dethrone George St Pierre. Will that happen? I don't think so. I think he's going to kind of do what Khabib did, maybe try to go for that second belt, and then once he wins that, he's probably going to retire. So that's my list of GOATs, guys. Do you guys agree? Do you think that someone else should be on the list? And who do you guys think is going to be able to replace or dethrone the kings of each one of these divisions and queens? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.